Hello everyone, welcome back to Explore China Tanzua Zhongguo. I'm happy that you're watching this week's video again. And this week we're going to talk about The Party and the People, written by Bruce J. Dickson, and it was just published this year in June, so fairly recently. And I was looking forward to this book a lot because I've read his 2008 book Wealth into Power. I have it here, this one, which I liked a lot. But this one disappointed me then slightly because it didn't have so much statistics and tables and facts as the other one. But this one is more political science and the other one was economic related. So obviously it's more difficult to find so many statistics. But now into this book. First of all, it has 254 pages. And I will briefly just describe you this book and read to you, first of all, the contents, the chapters. The first one is what keeps the party in power. The second is how are leaders chosen? How are policies made? Fourth, does China have a civil society? 5, do political protests threaten political stability? 6, why does the party fear religion? 7, how nationalistic is China? 8, will China become democratic? So now you have here the different chapters, and I will start and tell you about what I think was the most interesting again. And this is at the beginning. He is telling us about the times, the different times of the party with their different leaders, starting with Mao Zedong from 1949 until 1976, when he passed away. And this decade can be referred to as it is right to rebel, because during this time there was a constant revolution basically and 10 years of Wenhua Dageming, so of the Cultural Revolution. Then after him, his successor was Deng Xiaoping, even though he had never had like a real official post as a general secretary or president. Deng Xiaoping, he was the reformer and he opened up China to a more capital and market-based country system, yes. And this period until 1992 can be referred as to get rich is glorious. After Deng Xiaoping, his successor was Jiang Zemin from 1992 until 2002. And this period can be referred to achieve a moderate, prosperous society. And this was the main goal, and to develop the country as fast as possible. And Jiang Zemin was handpicked by Deng Xiaoping as the following leader. After Jiang, Jintao also handpicked by Deng Xiaoping still from 2002 until 2012. And here the phrase would be achieve a harmonious society. I guess you have heard about this phrase already. And now the fifth leader is Xi Jinping from 2012 until the present now. And actually, we would follow the trend of like 2 5-year terms, so 10 years. Then he would step back in 2022, so next year. But they changed the constitution in 2018 that a president can remain president as long as he wants, and there is no term limit as long as he is still elected by the other party members of the high party elites. So this is basically just like in Germany, like Merkel now, she was 16 years our chancellor, so there's also not a term limit. And now this current period is referred to as the China Dream, or the Zhongguo Meng, which is like an idea very much pushed forward by Xi Jinping, which is maybe like a counterweight to the American Dream, but which is in its foundation very different, because in China it's like a collective dream in order to develop the whole nation, and that everyone is developing and getting a more prosperous. While in the US, it's about the individual. He can achieve everything, like in theory. And then the book is discussing a lot about religion and religious freedom and the dangers of religion, and especially after the terrorist attacks with these Uyghur minorities, this conflict. And there were some numbers which I think is interesting. From 2018, there were general PRC statistics saying that there are 38 million Protestants in China, 6 million Catholics, 20 million Muslims, but there's no report of Buddhists or Taoists numbers, because there are so many, and it's hard to say if this person could be counted as a Buddhist or not, if he's burning incense sticks, because it brings luck to him for like the next classes or so. So it's difficult to separate these here. And now the last thing I want to mention is already nationalism, and that many people think, also inside China, I think that nationalism is growing, and especially around the young population. But the author shows that this is actually not the case. To his survey from 2014, which I will show you here now, you can see in these three different categories that actually when you ask younger people, the degree of agreement is declining. And personally, I think this makes sense because we're living in a globalized world and people still get much more information about different countries. And I think most people also like this globalization and multi-pluralization, which I think is a healthy development. Then what the change in China can best be described is, he says, the changes in China is best described as liberalization without a democratization. And now sometimes in China, or actually many times in China, you can see Minju, or that there's still democracy, and also some Chinese people say they have democracy. And yes, it depends how you define democracy. So this is also what the author is saying, and he gives, I think, a good, oh no, I need to find it again. A good description. Okay, here. Yes, and yes, most Chinese people see it differently. How can this be? The answer lies in the definition of democracy. For most in China, democracy is not defined in terms of elections, the rule of law, political freedom, and equal rights, as we would emphasize in Western countries, but rather in terms of outcomes. Improved governance, a growing economy, and better quality of life are seen as evidence that democratization is occurring. This is a paternalistic view of democracy that is based more on what the state does and not how its leaders are chosen or whatever they can be held accountable. It is a view of democracy rooted in the principle of Minban, the traditional belief that the state should act in the best interest of the people, in contrast to Minju, the Chinese term for democracy, which was not commonly used before the Western impact on China in the 19th century. Well, personally, I don't know about the terms Minban or Minju when they were used or where they are coming from, but I can agree, I think, on this understanding of democracy that, of course, from Greece and in Europe, most people think, yes, it is about by voting representatives with different parties. But in China, as long as the government is doing good for the most of the people, then this is their form of democracy. And I think this already describes like some of the interesting points about this book. And I'm not sure if I can recommend it because it did not really fulfill all my expectations. And I think this is it already for this week's video, and see you again. I hope you have liked it, and goodbye.